I've been told to do a different top 5. This one will be about, you ready? The top 5 moments of my career. The first one is the arrival to Sky Sports. Some of you must remember that I worked for Sky Sports for 20 years doing Spanish football. It was first called Spanish football and then we called it Revista de la Liga. And the arrival was a little bit different. I had been a journalist since I finished university in 1991. That same year I went to Liverpool to learn a bit of English. That's all what it was. For 3 months I said. But I stayed. I started working for different magazines and newspapers. One of them is called Lecturas. I was writing about Lady Di, as we call her, Princess Diana, and Prince Charles and Camilla. And in 1996, coinciding with the European Championships, I met the editor of Don Balón football magazine, historical football magazine. Now it's a web page somewhere which is clickbait. It's not. I think they bought the name and have used it, but nothing to do with that prestigious magazine that I started working for, having met the editor in London. They didn't have a correspondent, so they said, all right, you can do it. I thought, great. This was 96. And taking advantage that I was working for them, I actually rang Sky Sports and I said, I hear that you started doing Spanish football a year ago. And I would like to know what you do and anyway, what your plans are regarding how you broadcast those games and if you're going to do anything around. They said, oh yeah, come over. That was Dave Lawrence, the producer of Spanish football at the time. So I went to the offices of Sky Sports, to the studios. I was always told that the first impression is very important, so I looked at my wardrobe to see if there was any smart jacket or anything. I didn't have anything, but I had a friend of mine who had really good clothes, so I said, can I have your jacket? And but the problem was he was like 20 stone big guy, and the jacket was a little bit too big for me. I had big long hair, or longer hair than now, big glasses. Anyway, I went as smart as I could to the studios, and Dave Lawrence said to me, right, the show is going to start in half an hour and you sit here in front of the cameras. And I felt like, right, okay. Yep, you're the guest of the show today. Okay, are you okay with that? He said. I said, yeah, not a problem. I've done this a million times. It was, of course, my debut in television. So went in, I can't remember what the game was. David Bobbin, rest in peace, he was the presenter at the time. And at halftime, I must have done it decently because Dave Lawrence said to me, look, we thinking of doing a highlight show on the Spanish football. Do you want to do it? And I thought about it for about a quarter of a second. I said, yes, I will do it. Interestingly enough, and this is what I always say to students of journalism, you need the luck. You need to obviously to be the one at the right time in the right place. Because I had asked 3 other Spanish journalists to do that job that they asked me to do, and they said no, the 3 of them. If any of them would have said yes, my story would have been different. But you have to create your own luck. I went to see Dave Lawrence on Sky Sports without really the intention of writing anything about it, just so they knew that I existed. And look, the rest is history, of course. Once you are in Sky Sports or on television, a lot of things happen to you. One of them, books, and we'll deal into that for a second. Another one is that doors open. So I noticed that for the first time when I went to see Liverpool, and Phil Thompson, who was a pundit at Sky Sports, and we had crossed paths, had gone back to Liverpool with Gerard Houllier. And he invited me over and I went to the canteen and I sat down with the manager and the assistant manager, and there was all the players like Jamie Carragher and Steven Gerrard say hello to me, and I thought, how did I cross this barrier? The barrier of a journalist to become one more in that world, in that private world of football players and football managers. And I think it has to do with the fact that you're on television. They got joy out of hearing the stories that we were telling. And a lot of them had to do as well with movements of players and transfers. So I started focusing my work in a lot of that, and the peak of that moment was, well, two, I would say, or three even. When David Beckham went to Real Madrid, we broke the story in Sky Sports, and we had given a lot of detail in Revista de la Liga, and then eventually happened. There was, of course, the move of Cristiano Ronaldo from Manchester United to Real Madrid. And again, we broke the story in Revista de la Liga in January, only like 3 weeks after everything was agreed and signed. And I was given a lot of information from important sources about that move. But of course, I remember Sir Alex Ferguson in a press conference after we broke the news, saying, it's all rubbish, it's not going to happen. So that was 6 months of getting a lot of stick. Not so much trolls, because that wasn't the thing at the time, but a lot of stick, because when you break news like that, a story like that, basically you're on your own. You're on your own until everything gets confirmed, which obviously got confirmed 6 months later. In my biography of Cristiano Ronaldo, I detail, I give a lot of information about the contract and what was written and when and by whom and the problems of the move. But of course, it was a big step for Revista La Liga to break that story. Another one was Fernando Torres when he decided to go from Chelsea to Liverpool. Yet again, in Sky Sports News, I broke the news, and that came accompanied, this was the beginning of Twitter, accompanied by death threats and all kinds from Liverpool fans who were very upset that Fernando Torres, number one, wanted to leave, and then that he left. So I was looked after by those players and their entourage and the clubs that we're going to and the ones that we're coming from, and has been since then a constant in my career, the fact that you get so much information but you only use about 10% or 15% of what you know. It's certainly something that gives you the confidence of those around you, those that work in the football business. So that was another step in my career. The third one has to be the books. So you are on television, people call you to do all kinds of things. I presented events with about 8 with Messi. I presented events with Cristiano Ronaldo. I've presented events with La Liga recently as well. So another one that's interesting is that I got approached by an agent, the best football agent in the business, David Luxton, who asked me to do a book. And we didn't know exactly what to do. At that time, Rafa Benitez had arrived to Liverpool, and I was close to them, very close to them. In fact, I was there present the first day that they got to Melbourne. I can't remember why I was there, but I was there. Perhaps I got a tip that they were coming. And I got to talk to all the assistant coaches that he was bringing with him, Paco Ayestaran, Ocho Torena, Paco Herrera. And the three of them said to me, we don't know Liverpool, we just arrived. Where can we go for dinner? Now, I didn't have much money at the time. I didn't know about restaurants. Liverpool wasn't a great place for it at the time either. So I thought, I know a Chinese. So I took them. Chinese is where you do, when you've gone out for a few bevies in Liverpool, you go to Chinatown at 2 o'clock in the morning, there's always good food there. So I thought, I'll take them there. I must have chosen the wrong one because they never asked me about restaurants ever again. But we've still been in touch with all of them. That was a bit of a golden age of Spanish coaching and of Liverpool in a way, because those three plus Rafa Benitez took Liverpool to another level. And we were talking about the possibility of writing about Liverpool, especially as the season was progressing and we're getting closer and closer to a phenomenal ending in the Champions League. And the publishers, Orion, who have been very loyal to me and who have always published with them first, they actually suggested maybe about Rafa, but we'll see what happens in the Champions League. And then Istanbul happened. I was there after it all finished, ended up with Xabi Alonso and his family and celebrating what it was an extraordinary event, sporting event. And I went to bed very late. But at 7 o'clock in the morning, I got a call from London saying, we're doing a book about Liverpool, the season that they've had, and of course the Champions League final and the Champions League campaign. So it took me 2 months to do it. I had to do it over the phone because everybody went on holidays after that. I must have done 25 interviews, and what came out was A Season on the Brink, the first of my books. I thought, that's it, no more books. I mean, we all have a book in ourselves. Well, I've done 8 books, if you count the 2 e-books that I did on the South African World Cup and the European Championships 2012. They're out there somewhere, these e-books, but the rest, it's just been a fantastic journey, one that I did not expect, and one that has given me a lot of pleasure. After A Season on the Brink, it took a while. It took about 5 years, 6 years to write another one, because we didn't find themes that were interesting to everybody. And then Pep Guardiola came into the scene, and in his last season at Barcelona, they said to me, do you want to do something with him? And I said, only if he allows me to talk to him. And he wasn't giving interviews of any kind, following Marcelo Bielsa's advice, basically. And I went to him and said, Pep, can we do a book? Yeah, okay. When it got published, I said, and before it actually, I said, there's a chapter that's about your psychology. Do you want to read it? No, you write it, and I'll buy it when it's in the bookstores. It went there in the bookstores. After that, it had to be Messi. First, I got a no from the Messi entourage. No, we don't do books. But little by little, they realized that I was trustworthy, and they opened the doors, and ended up having the first authorized biography of Messi. After Messi had to be Cristiano. There's a long story of what happened with Cristiano. It's all in the book. And then after Cristiano, what do? Well, we actually did Pochettino. And that was one with a massive effect. He was mentioned in about 15 press conferences in the season that came out. Sorry. He gave a lot of explanations of what he was trying to do, where he came from, his thinking, his relationship with the players and the coaching staff, and it went really well. All of them nominated to Book of the Year by the Football Writers Association. The Cristiano one won the award, and I'm very thankful for it. Also won awards in Poland, actually. I'm very big in Poland and Norway, apparently, or so they tell me, the book publishers. And that's books. There is more to come. I'm preparing one about Maradona. One thing that happens when you are able to write books that people read is that, you know, they talk for you, they work for you. So a lot of the times things have happened because people have read my books. I remember talking to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer recently, and he mentioned, oh, I read your books, the Pep Guardiola one and the Pochettino one. Lampard read the Pep Guardiola one. Sir Alex Ferguson was very aware of my books as well. And actually, I asked him for an interview to talk about Pep Guardiola, in which he was saying to me, I don't understand why he doesn't stay at Barcelona much longer. And that was such a good conversation that I asked him if it was possible to use it as a preface of the Pep Guardiola biography. He said, no problem, go ahead. And he was happy with it, and so was I. So the relationships that I've got with some of the big names in football have to do because they see what kind of books they are, and they're not the usual football books. If you've got the opportunity to read them, you know what I'm saying. But if you haven't, you'll see that it goes by psychology, sociology, a lot of other things that is not just results or the game. And as a consequence, I can knock the door of some of those people and do things with them that are not the usual. And then they can go into some of the outlets that I work for, either AES or Marca in the past, or Don Balón, TalkSport. I did a lot of interviews that have become podcasts, which have gone, some of them, into my new podcast, the Pure Football podcast, which I recommend you to have a look at. But say in recent times, the one that has got the bigger repercussion has been sitting down with Pep Guardiola to talk about music. You'll see my YouTube channel that it's all there, it's all the video there and all the conversation that I had, which songs he chose as songs that define his life and his career and that allow us to explore the way he thinks and how he works and why he does the things he does. I think it's very eye-opener, and that is something that I'm trying to do. So given the opportunity to be close to some of these guys, I try to take them away from the usual and trying to get them into a different conversation. So with Jurgen Klopp, we talk about his youth, and that's also in the YouTube channel. With Rafa Benitez, we talk about the most important games of his career, and that again is in the YouTube channel. All that is there, including a conversation with Maradona, but it's in Spanish. That perhaps I'll either put subtitles one day, or I'll use it as part of the book that I'm preparing with him. A book that will describe his extraordinary time as a footballer. That's the most fascinating part of his life, I think. And that will go into a book that I'm starting to work on. Finally, I think you know, or you should know, that I'm the chairman of Biggleswade United. That's a football club in the 9th division in England, 9th division. And many ask, how did that come about? Well, yet again, you're in television, you talk about football, people think that you know what you're talking about, but one in particular, Cruz Lewis, who was the chairman of Biggleswade United at the time, wanted to test if what I know can be put into practice. And having heard from so many special brains in football, I thought I had a lot of more good answers than bad answers if somebody gave me this kind of opportunity. Became director of football at Biggleswade United in October 2014. The idea was to mix what English players and English coaches have, the motivation, the commitment to the cause, to the football. I admire the players that come to work and then come to training, and then Saturdays they're always dedicated to the football team. And I wanted to mix that with Spanish coaches that can bring the know-how a little bit of how to play, or a way of playing that's a bit different in grassroots football, in non-league football. And I think it's working. We competed last season for the league. We are competing this one for the league. Our head coach is Chris Devine, who's an English coach. Our assistant, Trishan, who's also British, but Bernat, who is Spanish. So that mixture, in my eyes, works very well. Anyway, how did Chris Lewis convince me? Well, he sent me an email saying, I hear you talk about football. Can you put all that in practice? And I met him literally a few days later in a coffee shop, and I said, right, this is what I'd like to do. And I went into detail. I didn't even ask which division we were in, what facilities we had, nothing. I just thought, this is what I'd like to do. Now let's see what we got. Let's see how we can put that in practice. We had 2 teams at the time, first team and developing side. We now got 11 teams in the academy. We've got a first team ladies, we've got first team boys, of course, men. We've got an under 23s. And a lot of coaches of a lot of quality, a lot of people involved in the club, over 200 people. And we have to keep pushing because we like better facilities. I think the FA will soon help with that. But it's been an amazing journey. I learned more than anything else I've done in my career with that. And for me, it's the best thing I've ever done. The ability to have a vision of where you want to take a football club and actually take it there. It doesn't matter which division you're in. So I hope you can share some of that excitement I have about the club, because we've got a YouTube channel, the football club, and we do the games live. Anybody who can help or wants to help, please come to me and we'll find a way for you to join us. And that's it. So this is my top 5 of my career. I hope you enjoyed this bit. It was a bit different. Not sure all of you would have come to the end of it, but I hope you've enjoyed it, and there'll be more coming very soon. Keep an eye, because you'll see an interview with Trent Alexander-Arnold being published in the YouTube channel very soon. Hasta luego.